the best camera ever that nobody ever buys. So if you could walk around the city streets with a 100 megapixel, effectively medium format camera in your hand, looking like a D5 or a Canon, would you do it? It's pretty exciting, because I've got a Hasselblad medium format, 60 megapixels. It's fragile. It's not ergonomic for run and gun. It's absolutely beautiful, great results, but it's not 100 megapixels, and I can't use it in that way. It's a very interesting idea, isn't it? It's a lot of money, but not compared to a Hasselblad. It's cheap compared to a Hasselblad. It's a wow moment. Let's talk about the GFX 100. And look, I'm mostly not interested in talking about specs. Obviously the specs are great. You know, we've got 100 megapixels, we've got 4K video, we've got in-body stabilization, which that may well be a first for a medium format camera. I reckon it probably is. And this is all coming in an SLR style body, not in your traditional medium format style body. It's a mirrorless system, so you get all the advantages of mirrorless. It has 2 hunkin' big batteries, so it's big. It's a big unit. And of course, it comes with its own unique needs when it comes to lenses being larger than full frame. So what does this mean for the industry? It's larger than full frame, perhaps not considered a full-sized medium format, but it's larger than a full frame. It's 100 megapixels. The biggest cameras I've got are 45.6 megapixels in the full frame space and 60 megapixels in the medium format space, the Nikons and the Hasselblad. My Sony being a 42 megapixel. So 100 is double of the average of my cameras. It's double the size, double the file size, double the things that you can do. And I can tell you with my 45 megapixels, it's amazing. And with the 60 megapixel Hasselblad, well, the images that come out of that blow my mind, and I absolutely adore them. So if this camera, because my Hasselblad is now probably 6 or 7 years old, 8 years old, somewhere around there, if this camera is on par optically, it's certainly got a far better chip on it in regards to high ISO. Dynamic range is fabulous. So this is in a package that's maybe half or a third the price of a Hasselblad or a Phase 1, yet it's probably going to do a very similar job, and you can use it like you use a 35mm full frame sensor. It's in the same sort of sized package. So for this, for me, who's been out on the streets photographing cities for 30 years in these D3, D4, D5 sized cameras for all that time, and before that I had the Nikon F5, and now I've got 100 megapixels in my hand, 10 grand US. Obviously you've got to invest in some lenses. This is a game changer. It's an absolute game changer. But we're also reaching a time in the world where the value of someone like me going out and photographing off my own bat, collecting images of the world, publishing them in books or posters or artwork like we can see on the walls here, all this sort of stuff. The value of people like me that do stuff like this, well, it's getting harder and harder to make a dollar. Harder and harder to make a dollar. So does someone like me want to start from scratch with a camera system and spend $30,000 or $40,000 to probably kit it out with 3 or 4 lenses, when most of that resolution is never ever going to be realised? It's a really difficult question. So right now I work with my Hasselblad and my D850s and my Z7, 45 versus 60, The optics are in the Hasselblad are better. I think the dynamic range in the Hasselblad is probably slightly better. They do things a bit differently. But 9 times out of 10, unless I'm making an effort to shoot on the Hasselblad, I'll just take the smaller cameras for a whole lot of reasons. Mostly because the technology is better, in-body stabilization, higher ISO, and all of those reasons. So why do I take the Z7? The Z7 is my big camera now for my own shooting. Super easy video, 4K, great focusing system, in-body stabilization. What you see is what you get. It's a great package. It's a great package for my style of shooting. So if I could jump from 45 megapixels to 100 megapixels and do it as easily and have all the benefits of 4K, you know, boom, I can suddenly shoot video, I can suddenly shoot amazing stills, would I do it? And again, I come back to that question, is there a market really for 100 megapixel files? Do I need more than 45? Do I need more than 60? Well, that's the world that we sit in. I'm not sure. So, I think this is an amazing camera. I think they've done an amazing job. I'd like to have one. I can't afford one, but I'd really like to have one. I'd like to replace my Hasselblad with this camera because it works better in my world. Right now, I take my Hasselblad out on the streets and it's like taking a baby out onto the streets at night. It's very fragile and it's a studio camera. The results are outstanding, but yeah. So the GFX 100, is it going to be the best camera? The best camera ever that nobody ever buys? Not because they don't want to, but do they need it? It's a great question. And in my world, where Nikon have just made an amazing mount that I think is going to be able to, we're going to be able to put a bigger sensor in there. I think Nikon are going to do something very similar to what Fuji has just done and give us an 80 or 100 megapixel camera with the Z mount. I still believe it. Yeah, it's very, very interesting times, but kudos to Fuji. It's a beautiful camera. I love it. I want one. Fuji, if you'd like to lend me one to play with and I can do a review, I would love that. Please do. Please lend me one. And I can do an Australian voice version of one. I think the philosophy of how a camera fits in our world ergonomically and ultimately what do we need as a finished product? You know, do we need an 8x10 print, a 12x16 print, a 1 meter print? You know, what do we need? And that should drive the system we buy. Like if you don't need the 45 megapixels of a Z7, then get yourself a Z6. And likewise in the Sony system, don't get the A7R, just get the A7. 24 megapixels is amazing, and you can do massive prints with 24 megapixels. And it's only if you've got a real, I would say a real commercial need to go up to 45 megapixels, 42 megapixels, 50 megapixels, somewhere around there, then go for it. But otherwise don't, because it's just unnecessary storage and it's just unnecessary cost in buying that body. So this is the hard thing for me with the GFX 100. It is outstanding. And we all should have one. You know, as photography and camera lovers, it's the ants' pants. It's the fastest rocket. But maybe we don't. Maybe we don't. I'm so excited. What do you think about the GFX 100? If you had the funds, would you get one? Would you get one because you just want to ensure that you have the most resolution ever so you can take shots that you can do whatever you want with? Or is it just simply silly to have that much resolution, even so it's now as easy as shooting with a Canon or a Nikon or a Fuji or a Hasselblad, as in, you know, the new Hasselblad? What do you think? Is 100 megapixels just too nuts? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I would love to know, love to hear from you, and I look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Thank you and bye.